Nothing brings the family together like cold-blooded murder. No, seriously. Hunt a Killer makes immersive murder mystery games where you'll get to solve a fictional murder as a family. Their most recent series is about the death of Beth Ferris Hendricks. Officials ruled her death an accident, but her sister is determined to prove it was murder. Go to huntakiller.com/iHeart. Use code iHeart for $10 off your purchase. That's huntakiller.com/iHeart. Do you have what it takes to hunt a killer?
Back on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Thank you so much for keeping us on the air. One of our favorite people joins us on the Syracuse and Moving and Storage Hotline. Tom Amore from the Hartford Courant covers UConn sports. Is on his way up there right now. So, all right, so Jim Mora is signed, sealed, and delivered. He's a big-name brand, but can he deliver the goods, Dom?
Well, I'm not going to lie about it. It wasn't the direction that I would have looked in if I were searching. I mean, I was thinking, and I'm put myself on record here a long time ago, so I can't lie about that. I feel like, I thought they would go for a younger coach, maybe somebody who had not been a Division FBS head coach before, coming up through the ranks, maybe having won at the FCS or Division II level. I thought that might be the direction they would go. It's the direction I would have started searching in. But I also know when you do any kind of a search, people sometimes blow you away. It's not a person that you hire. It's not a resume that you hire. It's a person. It's a coach. And I think that Jim Mora really blew David Benedict away with how badly he wanted this opportunity. And I could see why. He's a very impressive guy, when you talk to him. So, I think he's brought some national credibility to UConn. He obviously has a lot of contacts in national media. A lot of national media, it seems like they kind of stopped laughing at UConn for a little while. As far as getting the job done, I've said this 100 times, Rob, where there's a will and the right type of person, there's a way. You come in believing you can get the job done, you can get the job done. The right coach changes everything when he walks in the door. So I think he's changed the vibe, and we'll see, what else he could change and how quickly he could change it.
The challenge is obviously immense, and we know a lot of them already, but for the biggest ones or the ones to tackle first, what would you put on Jim Mora's plate here to end a regular season right before signing day, which is coming up in the mid-December?
Well, I think he has to identify what he wants at the quarterback position. I think for UConn to be successful, particularly to do it somewhat quickly, I think you really need a program changer at that quarterback spot. Now, if that's Tyler Fumicon, that's great, and he's committed to that. Otherwise, he's got to look at the transfer portal there'll be a lot of good quarterbacks that aren't playing where they are that could be available. But I think he's got to decide what type of offense he's going to run, what type of quarterback he needs to run it. And really, to me, it's got to start there. They need a program changer, the way Dan Orlovsky was a program changer a long time ago.
Talking to Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant. He covers UConn sports, certainly men's basketball, men's football. But let's talk some more about the football and Jim Mora. Is it a win at all costs kind of thing where we had thrown around maybe going back to FCS? It's more of a basketball school. Even Tim Brando nationally said, listen, when you went independent and then you went back to the Big East, it told everybody you're more of a basketball school than a football school. Does this put UConn kind of in a rock and a hard place kind of situation where we have to win now that we hired this big name coach?
Well, I think everybody knows that UConn's more of a basketball school than a football school. I mean, we all know that. I mean, Duke is more of a basketball school than a football school. Doesn't mean that they can't win in football. Same thing with Kentucky. But I do think that, I don't think that dropping the program or dropping to FCS is something that's really on the table or in the cards. UConn has too much money invested in it. They have too much money, too many buildings built, and they're in too deep at this point. I think at some point down the road, if there's a need to sink more money into football, then they might balk at that. But if anything, Rob, I think that this move signals to people how serious they are about football and how seriously someone would take an opportunity for one of the small number, 130 FBS jobs. They got a guy who coached an NFL team to the NFC Championship game to come here and coach at UConn. If anything, I think it shows you how seriously they take football and how seriously people around the country still take an FBS brand.
Basketball, though, let's move over there because it has been a great week, or at least the first couple of weekends for not only the women's team but also the men's team. I'm in love with this men's team, but the one question I've been asking myself in the last week, Dom, is how good really are they? Like, when we put them up against the top 10, how will they stack up with the rest of the country?
Well, all we could do, Ben, is go by what we've seen. And, the one thing that I've seen that I really like is that they haven't, kind of diddled around with these mid-majors. In the past, you would see maybe a 10-point lead at halftime, and maybe they'd let a team hang around and not play really well. They've really been kind of lights out, put these teams away, and kept them, put away. So they've played a lot better. I don't think they've, as Dan has said, I don't think they've just out-talented people. They've actually played well and been in the right places and done the right thing. So that bodes well for what it's going to look like against the better teams. What I would be concerned about, because they don't have a big, high-profile, major opponent in these early weeks, that coming off of 4 games like the last 2, right? Because they've got LIU and then I guess and Binghamton, that it's going to be a culture shock the first time they get on the floor against Auburn, or when they get on the floor, if they get, that the Bahamas are going to be more of a culture shock than it should be because they haven't played anybody like that since. So that would be my concern. I think they're going to be fine in the long run against those teams, but there may be some bumps early on because of the way their schedule is set up.
Dom, as far as talking Jim Mora, going over to Dan Hurley, now you've given him a few years. What kind of grade would you give him in restoring UConn's basketball program?
Well, he's on schedule, Rob. I mean, when you have a rebuild, and this is what you're going to look for with the football, with Jim Mora. First year should look a little better, play harder, more competitive, more disciplined, better culture. Second year, you should see some improvement. You saw that in his second year with the late season surge, and they were really on a roll before the season was stopped. Third year should be a little bit of a breakthrough, which they had, making the NCAA tournament, in a disrupted season due to COVID. Fourth year, you got to be ready to go. I mean, you got to be ready to challenge, ready to start, competing for the things that you want. So I think he's on schedule. And this is a year that he's got to they've got to make their big move back toward the top. And I would be surprised if they don't do that.
I love the intensity from the whole program, and since Coach has come in here, it's been that blue-collar New Jersey kind of feel with this UConn team, as Coach Hurley's from that area, and it seems like he brings that right to the roster. Defense, not worried about. I think you're totally on par with saying he is right on schedule. The one question I have, does he have enough shooting, Dom, to compete in the nation now where, defense is premium, and a lot of teams don't have it, but it feels like everybody's got shooters.
Yeah, everyone's got shooters, and it always seems like UConn brings in shooters, but once they get here, they're not shooters. They have more guys that shoot 40%, transfer here, and they don't shoot. But I think we're going to learn a lot about that when we see Jordan Hawkins on the court. He's a guy that's really an elite shooter. He was recruited as an elite shooter, and I think we're going to start to see it there. Tyler Polley is obviously a better shooter than we saw last weekend when he went 0 for 5, 0 for 6. I think he could provide that. But it's a legitimate question, but I think the answers are on the roster. We just haven't quite identified them yet.
Talking to Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant, covers UConn's men's sports. Let's talk about no James Bouknight. It seems like it's more of a team, and everybody has to contribute now that you don't have that one future NBA player on the team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's, a lot of times that could be a winning formula, because the other players, they got a feel for playing without him, last year when he was out, and they took their lumps, but they also won some big games without him. And so I think I think everyone's a little bit better. I think everyone has the mentality that we can't just be spectators and look for him to carry the load. We all have to pitch in and carry the load. But I do anticipate that somebody, we've seen it with Sonogo, although he's a different type of player. But I do anticipate somebody will step up and be a go-to guy. And that somebody could be Jordan Hawkins. I think he's got that kind of confidence. I still think it could be Andre Jackson, even though we didn't see it last week. And I would not rule out that it could be Jalen Gaffney, who is a really high-level recruit, and he seems to be just now finding himself maybe in Book Knight's absence. So I think they do need somebody to step up and be the go-to guy, the attacker and shooter. I think that as a rule, I think the whole is good. It's going to be a good team. The whole is better than the sum of the parts, and I think you need one part to just kind of step up a little bit.
I want to preface this by saying I'm so happy for James. I'm glad he is playing basketball professionally, but he is a lottery pick, Dom. And every time the Hornets play, Dibbs and I try to check the box score to see how did James do. He's got a lot of DNPs next to his name, and sometimes when he does get minutes in the scrap time, maybe 5, 6 here at most. But as a lottery pick, is this just like, our expectations for rookies now in the NBA have been blown out of proportion? When we see Cade Cunningham play, Jalen Green's playing, and they're high draft picks 1 and 2, but still he's in that lottery pick level. Is it something with James? Is there something that just be patient, Ben, or do you have any insight on his playing time here in the NBA?
Well, obviously he's getting minutes now. Unfortunately, it's at Greensboro, right? He's in the G League.
Swarm, yeah.
I think he's down there, but no, it's. I think if you're a Hornets fan, you have a right to ask, hey, was this a mistake? And was this guy overrated? Is he a bust? I mean, yeah, it's only 10 games. He's a sophomore in college. He didn't play a lot. He doesn't have a lot of basketball at the college level behind him. So I think there's room for him to grow and develop and get better and become the kind of player that they would expect of a lottery pick. But to this point, I think you'd have to be kidding yourself not to say he's been a disappointment. You don't anticipate your lottery pick to be in the G League, especially, when you're not a top-level team. If somehow, the champs had if the Mets had a lottery pick and maybe he couldn't crack their rotation, you could possibly see that. But, yeah, you wonder why a lottery pick is not getting more playing time where he is.
Dom, as always, my friend, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes, and, be safe out there on the roadways, and we'll talk to you soon.
You got it. And by the way, Korea really knows how to win friends and influence people.
Before you go, Jeter, overrated, yes or no? Dom Amore says...
No. I've always been a Jeter guy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Dom.
You got it, man. All right.
Bye-bye.
When you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at Home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at Home. Delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.